everybody. Welcome back to Working with the Law by Raymond Holliwell. We are going through this book. We're actually doing a walkthrough, so I'm not just reading it to you, reading the chapters to you. We're actually picking it apart and discussing it so we really fully understand each and every chapter. We are on chapter 8 called Law of Non-Resistance. Now, this chapter is fantastic. Each chapter, it's building on one another and they're getting better and better and better. If you like chapter 7, the law of conversation, if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to that chapter on the law of conversation. That was an excellent chapter. And the law of non-resistance is even better because it's really diving into, if you really want to know why success isn't working in your life, why manifesting isn't working, no matter if you're following Edward Goddard, law of assumption, law of attraction, why things aren't really working, you're doing these exercises, this is what's really going on. For example, if you're following Edward Goddard, the premise of Edward Goddard is you set an intention, you set a desire, you set a want, and you focus on that want. You go inside your imagination and you produce an imaginal scene. Inside your imagination, you go in first person. So you're acting as if that inside your imagination that you already have what you want. But you do this right before sleep. Either right before sleep or right before you take a nap. Okay, you fall asleep in that state. Okay, then in your 3D world, you live in the end, dwell in the end. Okay, now this sounds like very, very easy and simple. It technically is very easy and simple on a conceptual basis. Okay, but what makes this not work, what makes all these manifesting techniques not work is our little habits that we do. They're little violations that we're violating the laws of the universe. This is why I'm doing this book. This is why I love this book. I've had this book Working with the Law for at least 10 years, if not 12 years. I've read this book over and over and over again, and I have to get a new one because it's falling apart. The pages are falling out. So that's why manifesting techniques are not working. It's not the technique, it's you. That's what we have to understand. If I can't get the techniques to work, the only person to blame is me. It's something within me that's not working. There's something within me I need to fix. I need to realize, okay, it's not the technique. It's not Thomas Troward, it's not Napoleon Hill, it's not Neville Goddard, so forth, or Joseph Murphy, or Raymond Holliwell. It's not the technique. It's you. You got to figure out what you're doing. And this is why we're going through this. So lo and behold, let's get rocking and rolling in chapter 8. I don't want to talk no more about non-resistance because this is an excellent chapter. So let's get rocking and dive into this. Now, as always, Raymond Holliwell goes into a verse. And usually he starts off with a verse and he dissects this verse throughout the whole chapter. So, law of non-resistance. But I say unto you that you resist not evil. Matt chapter 5 verse 39. I read it one more time. But I say unto you that you resist not evil. And this is what Jesus is saying. But I say unto you that you resist not evil. And I'm not going to talk about this verse because Raymond Holliwell dissects this verse throughout this whole chapter of the law of non-resistance. Our interest in this law of truth is especially opportune at this time when, to many earnest students, there seems to be so much in the world to be met, which apparently cannot be met unless some resistance is set up. Sin and sickness seem to have multiplied despite all the efforts made to counteract them. Listen to this. I love this because the reason why I love this and love old school prosperity teachers, old school books, one, the main thing is it's full of wisdom. It's really full of non-fluff. But what's amazing to me is that, this book was published back in 1967. So when he's talking about sin and sickness seem to have multiplied despite all the efforts made to counteract them, that's amazing to me. That's so true today in 2024. It's been more than 50 years, 60 years, something like that since the book was published. And the same thing was happening then. Sin and sickness have multiplied, is just rampant. Even today, with all the knowledge we have in health and fitness and so forth, I want to be careful what I say here, but disease is just getting worse and worse every single year. The same thing's happening. Okay, it's never fixed itself. Resistance as a means of self-securing peace and harmony is a mistaken and misleading idea. Listen to this. Resistance. When he's talking about resistance, is force. Okay? You're trying to force things to happen. And, we can talk about force in two different ways here. Physical force. I'm trying to physically force someone to do something. Or most of the time, as an adult, we can't physically force somebody. We can't put our hands on somebody. Unless we want to, go to jail. Or we try to mentally force somebody. We try to coerce somebody to do something. That's force as well. That's what he's talking about, resistance. And we're going to dive deeper into this. That's why I'm kind of staying broad right now, because I know where this chapter is going. Resistance as a means of securing peace and harmony is a mistaken and misleading idea. True harmony cannot come from inharmony, nor peace from discord. Listen to this. True harmony, true peace cannot come from inharmony, nor peace from discord. Resistance fails because it is not in accord with harmony and order, which is the law. So listen to this. The reason why resistance fails, the reason why trying to force something to happen fails, is because it is not in accord with harmony and order. Remember, harmony and order, which is the law. These are laws of the universe. Okay, you can't bend the laws of the universe to work for you. Okay, that's what we think. That's our mistake. We think we can bend the law, that we can bend these laws of the universe to work for us. Remember, the laws of the universe do not discriminate against nobody. Okay, it's like the law of gravity. No matter who walks off the top of the building 5 floors, they're going to fall no matter what. There's no discrimination how good of a person you are. You're still going to fall. You're still going to learn that the law of gravity does not discriminate. Just like any of these laws of the universe, they do not discriminate. The master's doctrine, so he's talking about here, he's talking about Jesus. The master's doctrine that ye resist not evil seems a paradox to some of us. Okay, so now he's talking about, remember up here, he's talking about this verse, but I say unto you that you resist not evil. So now he's starting to dissect this verse. What does that mean, that you resist not evil? Why would Jesus say this? Why would Jesus say this to his disciples? So he explains, the master's doctrine that ye resist not evil seems a paradox to some of us. It's really a paradox to most of us. Because most of us, one, we don't really understand the Bible. We don't really understand the New Testament. And often when you go to church, often it is translated wrong to us. It's translated more into a human view rather than a higher consciousness. It seems contrary to the natural reactions of a body, but when we meet with opposition, it seems natural to steal our energies, collect our wits, and use whatever means we have to outwit and break down the opposition. Now listen to this. He words it kind of weird, so really pay attention to what I'm saying. Yet, on the contrary, as it may seem in one sense, when it pertains to more serious things in life, we are unconsciously using the law in the trivial and material things. Okay, I have it on. I'll do it on white. I love when he says this. Love when he says this right here. Yet, as a contrary, it may seem in one sense, when it pertains to more serious things in life, we are unconsciously using the law in trivial and material things. So what he means by this is when we want, for example, if we want manifesting to work, okay, manifesting works for us like in trivial and material things, like little small things that we think that don't matter. Like I manifest a cup of coffee. And the reason why I can manifest a cup of coffee is because I don't care if I get that coffee or not. I completely let it go. I don't care about it. Those are just small things. Or if you really, if you're doing manifested techniques like Neville Goddard, you're doing his ladder technique and it worked for you. Okay, it worked for you because you don't care. Things come to you when you really just don't care, and you just completely let it go. You're not attached to it. So this is what he's saying, with the more serious of things in life, what ends up happening when we want the more serious things, we violate the law. But we actually use the law unconsciously just in small little things, the trivial things that don't really matter to us. There are so many other names given to this law that we may not recognize it as always the primal law of non-resistance. For example, in our business world, We hear about the psychology of salesmanship, service, credit, free deliveries, expert advisors, and every other aid conceivable that will help us find the right pots and pans for the kitchen, the proper style and color of a crib in the nursery, the chair for the fireplace, and the accessories that are so necessary to show off the living room effectively. In fact, there is one business house that advertises, "We have everything under the sun." That's their slogan, that's their brand. We have everything under the sun. So no matter what you need, you can find it there. This is good business, you say. And the department heads know business is good as long as they use the law. So as long as they use, now he's given a business example, but as long as he uses the law properly. Okay, and now in this chapter he uses business examples and he uses personal examples, and I love his personal examples because I think what people do when they do the laws of the universe, and this is and I said this when we dove into chapter 7, law of conversation. The law of conversation is, for most prosperity teachers, the new ones of today that teach universal laws and teach the law of conversation, I mean, they explain it horribly, especially the law of conversation. Law of conversation has always been that universal law that really rubbed me the wrong way. And it rubbed me the wrong way is because people explained it wrong. People explain it as an entrepreneurial law or a business law, and they always give business, interpretations. They never give a human interpretation. Like, you're not a business owner, okay? You're not an entrepreneur. So how does this law work for me? How does this law relate? And I think Raymond Holliwell really gives, several examples here in every chapter of really kind of coming down to the humanistic view of it. That how can you get this law to work for you rather than always using a business example or a money example? You know what I mean? This is why I really love Raymond Holliwell. Why do you suppose they keep the doors wide open in stores where you shop? Okay, you notice that even today, especially when it's warm out, when it's summer, or maybe you live somewhere where it's warm most of the year. Now, why do you think it's a good business idea to keep your doors open for your business? Or maybe you're a customer. Why does that kind of lure you in when doors are open? Okay, so he's asking this question, why? Certainly it's not to let fresh air in. It is to let prosperity come in without even having to swing open the doors. Listen to this. Okay, I'll read it one more time. Why do you suppose they keep the doors wide open in stores where you shop? Certainly it is not to let fresh air in. It is to let in prosperity to come into them without even having to swing open the doors. I mean, it's the law of non-resistance. You're letting in prosperity, keeping the doors open. Have you ever noticed the number of people who walk through an open door in comparison to the number of people who open the door? So now he's given a comparison. Like, if the door's already open, because of the law of non-resistance, more people will walk through than actually the door's closed and actually people actually have to open the door. That's kind of the they almost said parable. That's the metaphor he's using here to kind of describe the law of non-resistance. Have you ever wondered why stores like the 5-inch or 10-inch or the 25 cents to $1 stores prefer to use the basement instead of the second floor? It is easier for people to walk downstairs than to climb up. Of course, they eventually walk up the steps when they come out, but it is the first thought of people that directs them to go down. Because this is the law of non-resistance. You're making it easier. In a business sense, you're making it easier for people. The doors are already open. They don't have to open anything. They just walk straight through. If your store is kind of downstairs, but you have to walk down, well, it's easier to walk down than to walk up. They often employ men and women to study ways and means to interest and attract customers. So they were doing these studies back way before, and even in the early 1900s, late 1800s, all these studies that are really kind of even today, nothing has changed. It's the same material. We just keep on regurgitating the same material, but we're explaining it different. But nothing's really new. They've been doing these studies for a long, long time, decades and decades. They study the law of non-resistance and the simple ways it can be used upon the public. A salesman, not in purple, an example. A salesman will study the ways and means of selling an article. He will approach a customer and present his product in a careful manner. He will bring out comparison with other similar products. He will praise his product and show all of its good points, trying all the while to avert any objection or argument in a customer's mind. In this manner, he builds up a positive sales talk and leads his customer in a positive acceptance. He will get the customer to say yes to so many things that before the customer is aware of his action, he is signing a check or a contract. The whole of salesmanship is built upon the law of non-resistance. Successful business houses everywhere are using it. Department stores are the outgrowth of its use. When our grandparents went shopping with their baskets, there were so many shops visited before they finished. Today we can use the phone and order our list of supplies, very like from one store. Mail order houses are dependent upon this method, and it is in this way that they make it easy for prosperity to come in. So in the business sense, it's making it, the more easy you're making it for somebody, the more easy you're making it for your customer, that's the law of non-resistance. The more confusing you make it, well, that's resistance. So now, of course, some of the examples means talking about the phone and phone order and ordering a list of supplies over the phone. I mean, now that stuff still goes on, of course, but now we have the internet and social media and websites and all this jazz, but it's the same concept. It's the same exact concept. Business houses do not employ the only salesman, for everyone is a salesman of some kind. So now he's kind of twisting it a little bit. He's starting to get off of business examples. So he's basically saying, okay, he's talking about businesses, he's talking about salesmen, but now he's flipping it and saying, well, everybody's a salesman. Okay, you just don't know it. You're a salesman, you just don't know it. You just don't realize it or not. We are ever selling ourselves to our friends for approval or disapproval. We are ever striving to put forth our best self and inwardly want our friends to see us in that light. A young man wishing to meet that certain young lady will try every means to gain an introduction. Then he will put his best foot forward, act his best, make the most pleasing impression. Why all this effort? Why all this extra effort? Why would a guy go through all this extra effort to kind of please a woman or please the opposite sex or please someone who's attracted to? Because he wants to make it easy for the fair lady to like him and wish to know him better. He wants to make it easy for her. He is trying to sell her the idea that he is the best choice for a companion and friend. He may be unconsciously using the law of non-resistance as far as he knows. So all he means by this, like when you're unconsciously using the law of non-resistance, it basically means he's using it without knowing. It's almost when you say someone's successful, someone is unconsciously successful. They don't know why they're successful. They can't teach you how they became successful. They're just successful. So you could say the same thing. If someone's unconsciously successful, it just means that they don't know why they're successful. They're using the laws, they're using the universal laws, but they don't know they're using them. Why does this young man put forth his best side? Oh, you say that it is only natural. It is a habit or custom. That is true. Yet, we become so governed by habit and custom that there are times when we, in working for prosperity and good health, unconsciously put opposition on our path through force of habit. So now he's kind of starting to tie in opposition. Lots of times what he's saying, unconsciously we put opposition in our path, is what happens is we put opposition there, we put force there, we put blocks there, we put stumbling blocks there in our path, but we're doing it to ourselves because we're doing it through our thought, but we're unaware of it. There are some who may be working to gain success and to bring forth an increase of supply and material wealth, and yet have gotten into the habit of talking and fearing hard times. This is where this starts getting very, very good. Listen to this. I'll say this one more time. Most of us do this, and I even catch myself doing this. There are some who may be working to gain success and to bring forth an increase of supply, and material wealth. You want success. You want abundance in your life. You want to attract things that you want. And yet gotten into the habit of talking and fearing hard times. Do you talk about hard times when things don't go your way? You talk about it. You talk about it to your friends. You talk about it to people at work. And that becomes a habit. So you end up doing it day in and day out, every single day. We may talk about a neighbor or criticize a method he used to get ahead. Listen to this. Do you do this? Okay, you talk about your neighbors, you talk about your friends, you talk about your acquaintances, you talk about your coworkers at work, and you criticize them for the method. You criticize them because you don't agree with how they're doing something. You don't agree with how they're living your life. Or you might sit there and be super ego and have, well, if I was doing this, I would do it this way. Have you ever done that? Or are you still doing that? We may fear business conditions, and when we see the graph take a downward swing, we fear for investments of our job. Now he's given an example even in business. Okay, when we do all these reports, even if you're an entrepreneur or you're just an employee, you do all these reports, and all these reports look at sales going down, and we start fearing, sales, investments, or a job, and that creates fear, and that creates a downward spiral. And then he says, when we do these things, we are very foolish. Listen to this. When we do these things, we are very foolish. You're very foolish to criticize and talk about other people, no matter how you know them. Okay? You're very foolish of talking about hard times in your life. Okay? That's what he's saying. You're foolish for doing this. You're living against the law. You're living against the law of non-resistance. You're putting resistance in there. That's what he's saying. And he said, in fact, as foolish as a merchant who advertised extensively that on a certain day he would inaugurate the biggest sale of the year, after getting his patrons all keyed up for the bargains promised, he barred the doors and closed everyone out. For such an act, the patrons thought he must have gone crazy, or else he did not want any business to come in. We call him what we will. But some people are just as crazy at times when they want supply prosperity to come to them and then bar their way with their conversations of poverty and discord. Listen to this. Okay, now he's flipping it back to you in simple terms, okay? He's not talking about an entrepreneur or a business person. He's talking about a humanistic view here. Okay, how does this relate to you? Okay, people want prosperity. People want abundance. People want to manifest their dream house, dream car, manifest a certain career, okay, a certain salary. So he says, we call it what we will, but some people are just as crazy at times when they want supply, they want abundance, they want prosperity, they want more money, they want that dream job, they want that dream career, their dream house, their dream car to come to them, and then they bar their way with their conversations of poverty and discord. So you basically shut it away from you by talking about poverty and discord. I don't say they are crazy, but I know they haven't learned how to think right. Nor are they wise to the law, nor are they wise to the law of non-resistance when they choke off the reflex of good with negative chatter. This is why this is so good. We all do this at some point or another. Either we're in a habit of doing it, and most of us are in this habit of doing it. This is what we're doing, and this is why no matter what manifesting technique you're doing, it's not working. It's not the technique. It's you. It's your habitual thoughts. It's your habitual conversations you're having. He says, one student wrote me and said, I am working hard over limitation, for I have had enough of it. My answer to her was, cease working over limitation and work only for prosperity. Listen to this. This is what he told her to focus on. He said, I told her, cease working over limitation. Cease thinking about limitation. Stop giving your energy to things not going right. Only work for prosperity. All your mind, all your thoughts, only work for abundance, only work for prosperity. Don't give 1 ounce of thought to things aren't going your way. That's what he's saying. The law does not require us to work over or against the things we do not want, but it does require us to work with and for which we do want. This is so powerful right here. The law does, listen to this. The law does not require us to work over or against things we do not want. Okay, that's not law. You're going against what the law says. You're not in harmony with the law when you're constantly focused on what you don't want. You're constantly talking about it. You're constantly bringing emotion to it. But he says, but the law does require for us to focus on what we do want. We dare not give our time, listen, we dare not give our time, thought, and energy to that which is opposed to what we want. That is setting up a resistance contrary to the law and barring the way for our good to come in. How then shall we work for prosperity? Now it's a question to you. How then shall we work for prosperity? How then shall we get abundance to come into our life? By being non-resistant and in agreement with all that is prosperous and using every means at our command to make it easy for prosperity to come in. So this is what he says right here. How do we get prosperity to work for us? That's what he's saying. How do we get all this abundance to work for me? It's working for Steve, my next door neighbor. You know what I mean? So how do we get prosperity to work for me? How do we get manifesting to work for me? We can twist this several different ways. By being non-resistant. Stop forcing things to happen. He said, by being non-resistant and in agreement with all that is prosperous and using every means at our command to make it easy for prosperity to come in. Now we might think, so basically when he's saying being non-resistant, okay, and I'm using to stop forcing it, but even force, okay, remember force negates and it's mental force. So what we have to understand, when we complain about something, that's being resistant to it. Okay, that you're forcing it, you're bringing emotion to it. So stop doing those things. He's digging deep here. Water is very powerful, yet it is perfect non-resistant element. Listen to this. Water is very powerful, yet it is a perfect non-resistant element. And I believe even in, let's say you're an athlete, you're really into martial arts, you like Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee gave a lot of, I want to say, metaphors about water. How water was non-resistant, water was ever flowing, water just went around borders and obstacles. So he's doing the same thing here. We can see where it has worn away the hardest rock. We have seen it sweep everything before its torrential outburst. Bridges, buildings, trees, nothing can withstand its force. Nothing can withstand the force of water. Yet, know how the great river begins. It starts with a small stream or a brook high up in the mountains where the ice and snow feed it into springtime. Know also that it's very crooked little stream. Nothing like the great river it finally flows into. You see the little stream of water run into a huge boulder, a fallen tree, or debris made up of bushes, decayed leaves, and the like. Does the little stream stop with the obstacle and wait for its force to build up so it can push past the opposition? Okay, this is a metaphor. This is what we do in our life. Okay. So he's using water here. So he's saying, does the little stream stop with the obstacle and wait for its force to build up so that it can push the opposition from its path? Okay. So when you're focused on your goal and you have an intention where you're going, all of a sudden there's going to be obstacles that come our way. It's not saying that, oh, I'm so positive that obstacles are going to disappear. No, there's going to be obstacles there. Now at this point, it's our perception of this obstacle. Okay, like water. Does water, when there's an obstacle falls in a stream, a tree falls, bushes fall, leaves pile up. Does water just push against it and wait for it to keep on piling up so it has enough force to go through? Or what he's saying, does water just move around it? Okay, that's what he's saying here. And he says, no, the little stream is not interested in so much of the border as a tree as it is in hurrying along and reaching a larger stream, a river, and then a mighty ocean. So it's a metaphor for what we're doing. Okay, we let little obstacles along our way totally stop us from what we really want to achieve. We have to be more like water. What's happening is now we're trying to force this obstacle in our way to go away instead of just walking around it. the law of non-resistance. That's what he's saying here. It is urged to meet a river and then be a part of a mighty ocean. Thus, we see that little stream wind its way round and round, many crooks and turns, but every turn takes it nearer to its goal. Some people, unwise to nature's method, set up a different one. When they meet an obstacle, they stop their progress to collect their forces and put up a fight to remove it. Is this something you're doing? I know I've done this many times in my past. And I know I hate to really say, even transparent, I've done this even when I was in Thailand. Because I live in Thailand, I come back and forth to visit family. Right now I'm in Ohio. And, if things go my way, do I want to put up a fight? Okay, if things go my way, if things not going well in the condo, do I want to put up a fight and fight with the juristic office or fight with the board? You know what I mean? Is there a better way to handle issues rather than putting up a fight, putting up force? Okay, I still, it's so easy to fall into this trap. So he's saying, some people, and in my opinion, I would say many people, unwise to nature's method, set up a different one. When they meet an obstacle, they stop their progress. Listen to this. Once an obstacle hits to you, okay, your goal is straight ahead, and you let this little obstacle, this little molehill, okay, you could easily just step on and go around it, okay, easily avoid it like water, okay, but you let this little molehill become a mountain, and it totally stops you from progressing forward to what you really want in your life, what's really important to you. You let this little obstacle stop you. This resistance they set up causes friction. Friction causes an irritation and inflammation. For this reason, many people's lives are hard and exacting. This is what he's saying. They waste people. This is what people are doing. And even for myself, waste of human energy is appalling. So I kind of put you in it, but that's not how he said it. He said the waste of human energy is appalling. Okay, how much energy are you really wasting on these little obstacles that happen in your life that you should give no energy to whatsoever? You move around it like water. People in every walk of life are breaking down and wearing out like obsolete machinery. Remember, it is not the movement of a machine that wears it beyond its use and service. It is friction. Friction is opposition and resistance. If we go through life fighting, opposing, resisting, arguing, does this ring a bell to you a little bit? If we go through life fighting, opposing, resisting, arguing, we are bound to meet with many obstacles and likely become so occupied fighting them that we lose sight of our real objective. Okay. If you think about what you really want right now, you think about what you really want in your life, success, abundance. It could be a dream house, a dream life, dream vacation, dream career. You think about what you really want. What's really important to you. Maybe family is really important to you. Raising a great family, raising your kids. Okay, so put that in sight here when I read this to you. What you really want in your life, what's really important to you. But yet, we go through life fighting, opposing, resisting, arguing. We are bound to meet with many obstacles and likely become so occupied fighting those obstacles that we lose sight of our real objective. We lose sight of our real meaning of life. We lose sight of what we really want and desire. If we always getting steered for the next opposition or trouble, we can expect plenty of it. Listen to this. If we're always getting angry, stirred up about fighting opposition, going force to force with it, okay? He's saying, well, there's going to be plenty of it. You're going to expect more to come. Why is that? It's because remember, when we're arguing with somebody, we're resisting somebody, we're opposing, we're fighting, okay? We naturally put emotion to it. Okay, we naturally go inside our imagination. We can't let the past go. Something happened last week. We talk about it today like it happened 2 hours ago. Some people, things happened 20 years ago and they tell their story today, they still talk about it. They still tell the story like it happened yesterday, but it happened 20 years ago. Okay. And when you listen to this, as you bring emotion to something, remember our subconscious mind doesn't play favorites. It doesn't discriminate. It just brings you whatever you're emotional to. It just brings you whatever you think about. And that thinking about it brings up an emotion. It just brings you what you're constantly emotional to. It just says, oh, Chad's thinking about this all the time. Chad's emotional about it, so you must like it. So he brings it to me. That's why just more and more bad stuff keeps on happening. More and more of these obstacles keep on coming into your life because you're attracting it. And you're attracting similar things over and over and over and over and over again. But he says, whereas if we strive to make little of the obstacle and keep our minds on the objective, just like I've been explaining, keep your mind on your goal, keep your mind on your attention, keep your mind on what you really want. You might have to wind around and around, just like water flowing through a stream. It's moving, it keeps on going towards its destination, but it's moving past that rock, it's moving past that falling tree. It's not fighting it force to force, it's moving around it. But it keeps on moving towards its goal. That's what he's saying. And then he says, but if we persevere, we will ultimately win. If you have persistence, you will ultimately win. If you have persevere, you will ultimately get to your grand prize. You will ultimately get to what you really want. We will reach the goal. Another lesson we may learn from this dream is that when it is small and struggling, it has the most difficult time. Remember, when we're first starting out, this is what he's saying, when we're first starting out, when we're first starting our journey out with this, maybe you're first starting out with manifesting, first starting out with positive thinking, you first set a big goal, and you set this destination, you have your dream house, and you set this, that's your intention, that's all you want. Then he says, when you're first starting out, you're going to go through a difficult time. And in the beginning, that's going to be your most difficult time. That's what he's saying. In the beginning, it will have so many obstacles across its path that it is ever winding around to avoid direct opposition. So that's all water's doing. Water's not crashing into it. It's just moving around it to avoid direct force, to avoid a direct collision. That's what water is doing when it's small in a little stream. That's what it's doing. It's just, in a little stream, it doesn't have enough force to crash through anything. It's just moving around it. That's what he's saying. Silently, it uses the law to be non-resistant, and it grows stronger in force and volume. When it becomes a larger stream, listen to this, when it becomes a larger stream and then a river, its path is more direct and the obstacles become less and less. Then it is not far from the mighty ocean. Students are like that. Listen to this. He says, students are like that. They have their hardest tests and delays while they are yet weak in power and understanding. So this is where we are when we're first starting out. They have hardest tests and delays while they are weak in power and understanding. This is when you first start off. You don't have the power enough. You don't have that momentum build up enough to just break through this opposition, to break through little borders along the way. As they strike out on the new path in truth, the obstacles and tests will be plentiful. The wise ones will not fight the obstacles. Listen to this. The wise ones, the people who really understand the law, will not fight the obstacles, but bless them and go on. This is so powerful when he says this. The wise ones will not fight the obstacles. You do not fight your opposition. You do not fight the little setbacks that pop in your way. You won't fight against it. But what should you do? You just bless it and move on. As they go on with faith and assurance, as they go on in faith and belief, remember, faith means belief. When you really believe something, you expect something to happen. So as they move on in faith and assurance, they grow stronger and become like that great stream and river. Their course becomes more direct. Their understanding is of greater depth, and the mighty ocean, their ultimate objective, is not far from them. This is an example on purple here. It's a long example, but it really adds up a good point here. A woman recently asked for help to meet her problem. She explained that her home was mortgaged and it was near time for her to make a payment, but the funds were lacking. She had converted her home into a rooming house. So basically what she did, she had this huge house. I don't know if it had 3, 4, or 5 bedrooms, but basically what she did, she couldn't afford it all by herself. So she had, she rented out each room. So she had roommates, hoping to get money enough to live on. But there was a difficulty. She could not keep her roomers. She could not keep her roommates. These are roomers, but she could not keep her roommates because they were so quarrelsome and critical. They argued all the time, basically. The house was always in an uproar. No one was content, and she was ill in mind from the strain and anxiety. It was explained. So she came to him. So then he's helping her out of what to do. So it was explained that she must use the law. She must use the law of non-resistance. She must not oppose the good, but strive to work with it. With all the friction and confusion in the home, she must go back and use the law of non-resistance. This she tried to do, but whereas she had been so exacting and unkind, she found it rather hard to be non-resistant. Now remember, this is probably what she's doing, and in my eyes, and he's not really saying it, but this is probably what's going on. She had this big house. No matter how she got it or whatever, maybe her husband passed away or that she went through a divorce or whatever, but she had this big house. She couldn't afford it. So it was probably, hard for her to do that. She probably looked bad. She probably thought people would look at her bad. So she had to rent this out and have roommates. And this is way back, probably even before, of course, before 1967. So she probably thought she would look poor and poverty, so it probably made her angry on the inside. So she probably was bitter. She was bitter upon having to do it. She was angry on the inside, and that's how she carried herself to the roommates. So you ever been around somebody that's tense and bitter and you could just feel their negative energy? So to me, that's kind of what she's doing. She's kind of creating it because she's being bitter and angry and people can feel this energy around her. So she's kind of bringing out the bad in other people. That's what I'm guessing kind of really what's going on, because it's really attacking her ego a little bit because she can't afford this house by herself. So Holliwell tells her, you need to start being kind. You need to start looking at the good. Remember the law of compensation. The law of compensation is being good, looking at good in every situation, and pulling out the good in other people. It's always looking at good. That's the law of compensation. So he says, that evening, as she entered the dining room, she greeted her people with a smile. The folks were so startled at the sudden change that they could hardly eat for wondering. That smile was the first smile some have ever seen from her, and others declared it was the first time in the months that they remembered. One man was heard to utter, when she had gone to the kitchen to fix dessert, "The old lady is going soft." Listen to that, the old lady is going soft. And more thought is so later that evening when they heard her greet one young man who had gotten back in his rent, and she was trying to slip. I'm stumbling over my words. I'm so sorry. He writes a little bit different. And they're listening to her. So then there was one man that was on not caught up on his rent. So that's basically what's going on. So she's talking to him like he's behind by several months on his rent. So they're hearing this conversation. So they know that he's behind on her rent. So she's acting all nice, whatever. So people's kind of listening to kind of see how she's going to handle this situation. And more thought so later that evening when they heard her greet one young man who had gotten back in his rent and who was trying to slip up in his room without being seen. So he's trying to sneak in and trying to sneak past her, get in his room quietly besides her, because he thought she would see him and confront him like, "Where's your rent?" So that's basically what's going on. She greeted him pleasantly. Listen to what she did. Even though he's backed on his rent, she greeted him pleasantly, and she said she was sorry he had missed dinner. So she didn't even focus on the rent. She didn't focus on the back rent. She focused on only the good. She made dinner for everybody, and it looked like she was in a habit of making dinner for everybody every night. And she said pleasantly, "Oh, I'm so sorry you missed dinner." She didn't bring up the rent at all. After a few weeks of this new plan, the woman began to enjoy it. After doing this for a few weeks, she began to like it. She began to enjoy it. But she's enjoying it because she's actually having fun. She had become changed within herself. Listen to this. She had become changed within herself. It's always within out, not outside in. We change from the in out. She saw her folks in a different light. Instead of thinking them to be cheats, liars, and quarrelsome lot, she saw the good in them. Now, this is the law of compensation right here. He's just repeating the law of compensation right here. Instead of thinking them to be cheats, liars, and quarrelsome, besides just looking at pulling out the negative in them, she saw the good in them. This is the law of compensation. She saw the good in all her roommates. And she grew to like them more and more as one big family. I mean, after you pull out the good in somebody, you actually like them. Okay, this is what I said in the last chapter, because when we talk about the law of compensation, the easiest way to destroy a relationship, the easiest way to destroy marriage or destroy a significant other is to always focus on what you don't like about them. I mean, I think we all would agree to that. If you focus on what you don't like about the other person, about your significant other, and that's all you focus on, well, you guys aren't going to be together very long. Okay, but if you always focus on the good and pull out the good, you'll probably be together for a long, long time. Just saying. And she grew to like them more and more as one big family. They too became different. The family gathering at the table was looked forward to as a happy time and had grown to its capacity. Others had asked to have a room if and when the vacancy occurred. Listen to this. In the very beginning, she said she could hardly keep people. She could hardly keep roommates. Now, all of a sudden, she's keeping all these roommates, but yet she has other people that actually want to live there, that actually want to be a roommate. Now she has people that actually want to be there, but of course she can't take them. Even the young man who tried to dodge her, now he's talking about even the young man that tried to dodge her about paying the rent because he owed back months because of his rearrangement, had entered into a spirit of the new home and was able to get a job and pay up in full. So even with him, even she wasn't going after him, she wasn't forcing him to try to pay, she wasn't going at it being angry with him. She just let it be and let him be part of the family, part of the culture there. And he was able to get a job, and he paid her all the back rent. He paid up in full. Needless to say, the payments of the mortgage were met, and the home was saved for the widow. So listen, the widow's trying to save her mortgage, and following the law of non-resistance, this is how she did it. Needless to say, the payments of the mortgage were met, and the home was saved for the widow. She did as she was instructed. She became non-resistant to the good. She made light of the many obstacles and confusion that appeared. Listen to this. She became non-resistant to the good. And this is very important. She made light of the many obstacles and confusion that appeared before her. She made light of the situation. Okay, if somebody wasn't paying the rent, or he was late, he was behind several months, she made light of the situation. She didn't even bring it up. She just basically said, "Oh, I'm so sorry you missed dinner," because he was avoiding her. That's why he was avoiding dinner. She made because he was avoiding her because he was late. He needed to pay her the rent. He was late by several months. What she did was she held in her mind. She held in her mind the objective she wanted. This in turn melted down the hardness within herself and then reached others. Though she appeared to be going soft to some, in doing so she reached her goal and was victorious. In another verse, Jesus expressed the law more simply. He said, "I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, pray for them that despitefully use you." And I know we've all heard this, in one way or another, and this is the law of non-resistance. This is the law right here. Jesus has said it in a different way. He said, "I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them that despitefully use you." In studying his statement, one might at first think the master was favoring the enemies, the opponents, but not at all. Jesus was speaking to all who desire to use the law. To extend a loving thought to anyone or anything removes the opposition and enmity that once seemed there. This removal must first be the person's consciousness. Okay, now basically what we start learning about when we hold a grudge, when we have unforgiveness, okay, when we have opposition, we bind ourselves. This is why Jesus taught this. Okay, even on forgiveness, we bind if we don't forgive, okay, we don't move around it, we bind ourselves to that person, okay, that lower consciousness. We're bound to it. Okay, the only way to release that bondage is to not bring energy to it, is to avoid it, to move around it, to truly forgive. Okay, now Love Never Gother taught about this, is true forgiveness is forgetfulness. Okay, when we really say we truly forgive somebody, we completely forget about it. We don't keep on reminding them. We don't bring it up every year. That's not forgiveness. True forgiveness is forgetfulness because it breaks that bond. We're not linked to them. Once this thought of enmity is removed from your consciousness, you will not attract the same condition again. Listen to this. Once that thought enmity is removed from your consciousness, you will not attract the same condition again. So that's what I mean, is when you're bound to it, when you're connected to it, you're going to keep on attracting that same condition. It's going to be similar conditions that keep on attracting to you. Okay, you release it. Okay, so you're not constantly attracting the same condition again and again and again, almost like the law of karma. Then he says, do good to them that hate you, because in doing good, you are raised above the thought of hate, and hate that cannot touch your life. Bless them that curse you, and pray for them that misuse you. Why? Blessing calls forth the highest good within you. The highest good within you can only attract the highest good from another. To attract such goods, you are running around all opposition and abuse. Listen to this. When you bless other people, you bless people that hate you, make fun of you, whatever. To attract such goods, you are running around all opposition and abuse. Thus, to live the law with others about you does not especially favor the others so much as it favors you. It affects others in that it takes away from them their weapons of hate, malice, revenge, and the like, and their love and interest will be reciprocal with yours. If a man resists a situation, he will have it always within him. If he tries to run away from it, like a shadow it follows him, and repeatedly he will meet it again. If he ignores the hardness of the condition and fearlessly works around it, he will find time when that hard condition will have been absorbed and removed. Accept the condition as some evidence of good. For that good and being acceptable, it is more and more evidence of it appears. So what he's saying here, when we have something happen, we have an obstacle, okay, we tend to go at it head on. Okay, we don't go at it like water, like a stream, and just move around it and give no attention to it. Okay, so what he's saying here, accept the condition as some evidence of good. And I like when Ed Milet says this, is that when things happen to you, it's not happening to you, okay? That's how we look at it. This happened to me, but it's happening for you. It's happening for you for your own good. This is what even Holliwell is saying. When things happen to you, it's happening for you for your own good. So he says, look for the good in that obstacle. That's why I said it's your perception. When things happen, little obstacles happen in your life, it's your perception of it. Look for the good in that situation. That's what he's saying. That's the law of compensation. Look for the good in that negative situation. Look for the good in it. And by being acceptable to it, more and more evidence of it appears. This is what he says. He goes on, agree with thy adversary. Listen to this. Agree with thy adversary is another way of saying that nothing worthwhile and lasting is ever gained by argument. And he continues. He explains kind of what he means by this. He who is convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. To disagree with one only causes that one to put on his full armor. Listen, now he's talking about arguing here. We need to have disagreements with one another. To disagree with one only causes that one to put on his full armor, to collect all his forces in opposition to yours. Then he says, you basically do the opposite. To agree with your worthy opponent leaves him defenseless. Listen to this. To agree with somebody that wants to argue with you, to agree with your worthy opponent leaves him defenseless and without need of his armament. To offer no resistance makes it easy for one to be abominable. If I could talk, my lips are sticky. And he who thought himself your enemy will find it a pleasure and privilege to be a friend. So really what happens, you ever been in an argument? I've done this before, and I've fell in the trap of arguing and it gets heated. But you ever been in an argument, someone wants to argue and you're just agreeing with them? I mean, then they really want to argue, but you're just agreeing with them. And you can see like their defenses just start crumbling because you're not falling for their little trap. You're not getting all heated up. Okay, that's what he's saying. It makes them defenseless. Then maybe that person becomes a friend of yours because you're not wanting to argue. You're not fighting force with force. You're like water. You're just moving around it. Blessed are the meek. And I love this when he explains this. And he explains this for a little while here. Blessed are the meek. And this is taken from the New Testament. And he explains what the meek is. Meek is really like you're timid, you're passive. And he says, blessed are the meek. May seem literally to support those kindly, timid souls who are an easy prey for their more aggressive brothers. So basically, you're timid, you're passive, especially going through school, elementary, middle school, high school. Like maybe a meek person would be more timid, more passive. Then you have the school bully. Rather, it refers to the one who is able to follow the law of non-resistance to a point of inheriting the earth and all things thereof. So now he's saying, he's given an example here, and he'll expand on this, that the meek, being kind of timid and passive, is really kind of unconsciously using the law of non-resistance to a point of inheriting the earth and all things there. They're kind of just walking around obstacles, walking around force, so forth and so forth. Then he says, to be meek does not mean to be an easy mark, nor to be a doormat for anyone to walk over. Okay, I've heard it said that in this day, one cannot be a real Christian and be easy and forgiving. In this day, one must be on guard to protect one's rights from being overridden by the stronger or more abusive. One does not know what is fully required of a true Christian if he thinks this. We are not asked to be a martyr for our belief, nor it is unchristian to be able to speak out fearlessly and positively. We need not be an easy mark nor a doormat for anyone, for there is a greater power to be reckoned with, the power of law when you use it. Now he's saying because basically if you're meek, if you are timid, you're very passive, either in your school days or even in business. Business, when you're a school bully, some of these bullies go to the career world. Now they're just professional bullies. We've all had like bosses or supervisors, managers that think they can talk down to us, talk to you any way they want to, and you're not allowed to say anything back. So he's saying, so this is what he's talking about. We need not be an easy mark nor a doormat for anyone. But he's saying there is a greater power to be reckoned with, the power of law and when to use it. Yet this does not make us like a pugilimist, but a master. This does not require us to be hard-boiled and boisterous in order that we may attain our rights. Our rights, when they are righteous, will uphold themselves. They are their own defense. They do not need us nor anyone to fight their battles. Now, the law reads that we attract what we expect. Listen to this. Now, the law reads that we attract what we expect. So if one believes he is an easy mark, a doormat, a weakling, If he expects to suffer imposition and must resort to warlike means for his protection, then they take the sword shall perish by the sword. The law of life reacts upon man according to his understanding and application. So now he's kind of twisting it a little bit. Now he's going back to all the laws. If we attract what we expect, we attract on an emotional level. And plus we attract what we expect, deep down to our secret core thoughts. We attract what we expect. So he says, if one believes that they're meek, if one believes that they're an easy mark, they're a doormat, they're weak, they're a weakling. If he expects to suffer imposition and must resort to warlike means for protection. So at this time, what he means of warlike means for protection, he means that you're getting in fights, you're getting in arguments, you're going in a battle force head, you're going head on head. Okay, then he said, no, this is taken from the New Testament. Jesus said, they that take the sword shall perish by the sword. So what does he really mean by this? Now, lots of times people say, you're fighting with weapons. That's one interpretation. Like they that take the sword shall perish by the sword. They that take the sword shall die by the sword. But he's also talking about, remember this, the sword also in an interpretation is a sword is the power of our tongue. The sword is the power of our words. So this is what he's talking about too. Our sword is the power we have with our words. Okay, so if you look at it that way, as they take the sword, they shall perish by the sword. Okay, if you're saying negative thoughts, you're trying to pierce somebody. Our words have power, and it's piercing like a sword to somebody else. So that's what he's saying. It's being reflected back to you, because as you argue with somebody else, you're attached to them. Remember, the same way of unforgiveness, you bind yourself to that person. You're linked to that person. Okay, you could be linked to that person for 30 years because you don't forgive them. You don't truly forgive them. That's what he's saying. You're linked to it. And that's why he says, thou that take the sword shall perish by the sword. The law of life reacts upon man according to his understanding and application. Listen to this. The law of life reacts upon man, reacts upon women according to his understanding and application. According to your own understanding. To be meek does not mean that we are submissive to the conditions of discord and disorder. Listen to this. To be meek, it does not mean that you are being submissive to conditions of discord and disorder. We are meek only to the law. Listen to this. We are meek only to the law. Okay, we're only meek, we're only timid, we're only passive, only to the law. Such meekness gives us power of spirit. Jesus was so strong in spirit that his spoken word was like a two-edged sword. It beat welts upon the intruder like a whiplash. Jesus, though a humble man, was no example of weakness. When he spoke as one with authority to the scribes or cleared the temple of the money changers, he showed a strength that was a delight to his disciples to the extent that they implored him to be their king. Do not confuse meekness with weakness. This is what he's saying here. Do not confuse meekness with weakness. Nature eliminates weakness, and so she should. Weakness ever creates weakness. Listen to this. Weakness ever creates weakness. This brings on deterioration and finally death and decay. To live wisely, one must be strong and positive. Listen to this. Bring it up here. To live wisely, one must be strong and positive, though righteously meek. Such strength is not measured in physical brawn and muscle, but in mind and spirit. No one can be truly meek who is not strong and spirited. So this is what he's saying. To live wisely, one must be strong and positive, though righteously meek. Okay, but strong and positive doesn't mean that you got physical strength. You're a bodybuilder. You got all these muscles. Okay, you're 6'4". You're strong. Okay, but the power, this is what he's saying, the power is in your mind and spirit. That's where your power is. Your power is in your mind and spirit. No one can truly be meek who is not strong and spirited. Meekness, then, is that strength appropriated when you do not argue. Listen to this. Meekness then is that strength appropriated when you do not argue, when you do not become angry or boastful and proud, when you do not insist upon having your rights in a quarrelsome manner. Meekness is the steel of one's nature. So steel, he's using steel and like metal. Okay, meekness is the steel of one's nature. It is enduring. Meekness is the strength by which you win an argument by refusing to argue. You know, when somebody really wants to argue with you and you just totally refuse to argue, when differences of opinion arise and your opinion is right, the real victory lies in the fact that right is right regardless of what others may say about it. Listen, when differences of opinion arise and your opinion is right, even if you know you're right, the real victory lies in the fact that right is right regardless of what others may say about it. Okay, if I feel I'm right, I'm not willing to argue over it. Okay, that's what he's saying. Right is right, regardless of what other people say about it, regardless of what other people's opinions are, I'm not going to argue about it. In science, we recognize the spirit of meekness as cooperativeness, persistent application, accurate computation, perfect harmony, symmetry of design and color, and so forth. Possibly the simplest illustration can be seen in our application of the law in nature. We exercise the spirit of meekness in accepting the terms of nature. Listen to this, I'm right down here. We exercise the spirit of meekness in accepting the terms of nature, and the more fully we cooperate or submit to her, the more abundantly we are blessed. We carefully select the best seed and plant it in the right place at the proper time and the most fertile soil. Careful are we to water and cultivate the growing plant to ensure a bountiful yield. Why are we so careful, so particular, so non-resistant to obey nature's laws? So this is the question. So now he's talking about nature's law. We're so careful obeying nature's laws, especially he's really giving an example of a farmer. Okay, the farmer has to pick the most fertile soil, the perfect seed. He has to be careful with it. Okay, he has to be careful watering it and cultivating it, not watering it too much, and cultivating it to get his crop to grow. Okay, if we violate the laws of nature, we're not going to have no crop. You know what I mean? We're not going to have no farm if we violate the laws of nature. So we're so particular obeying the laws of nature. So this is why he's asking this question. Why are so many people careful, so particular, so non-resistant to obey nature's laws? Is it because we are weaklings, crave excessive work, and in general simpletons? Because of the utmost care and attention we are obliged to give? Only he who does not meet the law with non-resistance is foolish. Listen, only he who does not meet the law with non-resistance is foolish. With whatever degree the wise one meets the law with meekness, non-resistance, so will be benefited. Thus, a man applies the spirit of meekness to the principles of his daily life, not to the conditions, so he will be proportionately blessed. Listen to this. I'm right here, the last sentence here, right before the last paragraph. So Holliwell says, thus, a man applies the spirit of meekness to the principles of his daily life. Listen to this. To the principles to his daily life, not to the conditions of his daily life. What are the conditions of his daily life? Conditions in my 3D world is anything that pops as an obstacle. Any obstacles that pop up. Anything I don't like that pops up. Okay. Anything that happens to me that's negative. Okay. Those are all conditions in my 3D world. So what he's saying here, a man applies the spirit of meekness to the principles of his daily life, the principles of me understanding the law. In this example, me understanding the law of non-resistance. And me realizing that almost like water, flowing water, like a stream, that any obstacle that pulls up, any negative that happens in my life, water's going to flow around it, and I should do the same thing. And as I apply this, I am proportionately blessed for following the law. When perplexed, remember that the little stream of water and how determined it is to reach the mighty ocean. That's the example I just gave. When you're perplexed, when you're confused, when you're in that moment of resistance, okay, when you're in that moment, something's negative happening, something you don't like is happening in your world, okay, in your present moment, okay, something just fell right in front that's trying to stop you from you reaching your goal, from you moving forward. So that's what perplex means. But he says, remember the little stream of water. In your thought, remember the little stream of water and how determined it is to reach the mighty ocean. Be that determined. See, he says, be that determined to reach and realize all the good that is waiting for you. Why delay its benefits by putting obstacles into your stream of prosperity? Let us come over the path of non-resistance. Every worried thought, every fear, doubt, complaint, argument, and angry thought are but so many borders, large and small, that you cast into the stream. Listen to this. And this speaks really loud, okay? He says every worried thought, every fear, every doubt, every complaint, every argument, and every angry thought are but borders, or but roadblocks, large and small, that you cast into your stream. You're producing them. You're putting them there. These tend to change your course and to lengthen the time for your goal to be reached. Unite your forces for good and with the good that is seeking you. This is the law of compensation right here. Unite your forces for good with the good that is seeking you. Remove and dissolve every obstacle by blessing it. That's how you remove all these obstacles. As you come to an obstacle, you bless it and you move on. Remove and dissolve every obstacle by blessing it and being willing to understand it. Mark it no longer a stumbling block, but a stepping stone leading you to your highest good. I'll read it one more time. Unite your forces for good with the good that is seeking you. Remove and dissolve every obstacle by blessing it and being willing to understand it. Listen to this. By being willing to understand it. Okay, what he means by this, I have this obstacle, I have this roadblock, something happened, no matter if I created it or not, okay, it's in my way. But he says, mark it no longer a stumbling block, but a stepping stone leading to your highest good. What does he mean by this? Is no matter what's happening in your life that's negative, remember, it's not happening to you, okay, it's happening for you. It's happening for your own good. That's what he's saying. So that's why he says, when you come across an obstacle, bless it and be willing to understand it. Mark it no longer a stumbling block, but a stepping stone leading to your highest good. Because the law of compensation is that we look at good in every situation. Okay, no matter if something's happening to us, negative, where our perception is always look at the negative side of the things. Okay, that's a habit that we do. No matter what we look at, we're always pulling out what we don't like. Okay, when we go to work and we have our coworkers, we always pull out what we don't like about them rather than focusing on what we do like about them. Okay, when we have a negative situation, we always pull out what we don't like about it. Okay, what's the negative side about it? We never focus on the good in it. So that's what he's saying. The law of compensation is simple. It's always look for the good. Always pull out the good in every situation and in every person. That's the law of compensation. The law of non-resistance now is you don't fight force with force. You fight it like flowing water. You just go around it. You bless it. You understand it. You understand it's for your own good, and you walk around it. You give it no energy. You give it no emotional energy. Because you know that emotion attracts. So you give it, you're just wasting your energy on it. Once you stop and focus on it, you're just wasting your energy. That's why sometimes when we go to bed at night, we're so flippin' exhausted. Because we've wasted our energy on all these little minor negative things throughout the day, rather than focusing on our intent, focusing on what we really want, focusing on that goal. But other than that, my friends, this is the wrap up of this chapter. Hopefully you loved it. Hopefully you got a lot out of it. Now, even though I've read this book many, many times, even going through it now, and I actually read it twice. I read it once to kind of highlight everything. And of course, I'm reading it and we're going through it here in the video. So I'm going through these chapters twice. And even for myself, it's great to review these chapters. It's great because we're always growing and expanding. We're always at a different moment in our life when we actually reread material. And that's why I have certain books that I love to read over and over and over. I love to read Working with the Law over and over and over. I love to read Think and Grow Rich over and over and over. I love to read Wallace Wattles' book, The Science of Getting Rich, over and over and over. Because these are just great books and they're just filled with wisdom. And we're always at a different point in our lives. And we're always going to pick out something that maybe we understand at a deeper level. Okay, because we all struggle. We all think we read this book one time, and we conceptually can talk about it, but we really don't understand it at a deeper level. And that's the big thing. When we talk to different people, they might say, "Oh yeah, no, I've read this book, Chad," but they only read it one time. Versus I might have read this book 100 times. When people say, "Well, I've read Think and Grow Rich," but they read it one time. 15 years ago. But I've read that book probably 200, 300 times. I'm not even lying. I'll just reread it. Same with Science of Getting Rich. I've read that book the same. Because lots of times I'll take these books with me to Thailand. I'll take them on vacations with me when I sit down and read. Lots of times I get in the habit of reading a chapter every single day. And I'll just keep on rereading the same flipping book. Or the same 4 or 5 different books that I love. Because I'm getting something out of them constantly. I'm constantly changing the core of what I believe, my core beliefs of what I believe about myself. About really believing that abundance is inside me. That's really what it is. Do you truly believe it? Because right now you're struggling because you truly don't believe it. You truly don't believe abundance is inside you. Abundance is your birthright. The Spirit is inside you. Heaven is within you. You truly don't believe this stuff. You conceptually believe it, but to your core, you don't believe it. And that's why you're struggling. That's why you're struggling manifesting. Because what you're manifesting to yourself is your deep-rooted core beliefs. And this is what we're trying to change here, is your deep-rooted core beliefs. When you truly believe, even the law of supply, the law of abundance, abundance is infinite. Abundance is overflowing. I don't need to compete. I don't need to rush to get what I want, but it's always going to be there. Abundance is everywhere. If I truly believe this, my faith, my belief, I'm going to start expecting. If you really have faith in something, you believe it. And you believe it to a point, you expect it. Same with a child. If a child asks, "Hey, what do you want for your birthday? What do you want for Christmas?" And they say, "Oh, I want a PlayStation. I want a PlayStation 5. And I want this favorite game." They really, when they believe they're going to get it, they really expect, "I'm going to get the PlayStation for my birthday. I'm going to get a PlayStation for Christmas. And on top of it, I'm going to get my favorite game with it." They expect it. When they really believe their parents going to get it for them, they expect it. And then they act as if they already have it. Make sense? That's what children, when they're super young, really follow the laws of the universe. We're the ones that come in and start kind of changing it for them. The school system and parenting and also other adults in their lives at that time. But other than that, my friends, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent. But blessings to you. Remember, I love you guys, and I'll see you in chapter 9.